Hi, welcome back to Mr. Greg Roach. It's our second episode with Mr. Roach, who's the superintendent of Delville Community Schools, located in the northern part of Indiana, up and around our state capital of Indianapolis. Mr. Roach, thank you for joining us again. And the last aspect, we talk a little bit about education and service and your experiences. And the last topic we got into in the first episode was around transformation. Would like to start this episode when it comes, and you've talked about getting away and sharpening the saw a bit in episode 1, but when it comes to influencing, when it comes to inspiration, the passion that I sense you have, I'm assuming and have zero doubt that passion is shared, so to speak, around your Delville family. But what becomes, in your opinion, the greatest obstacle at times for that influence and inspiration to be sustained in the educational world?
I think the first thing I think of is coming out of COVID, just the teacher stress. And we know that teachers seem to be leaving in droves. But I think, just the day-to-day grind that sometimes takes place in a school and education just wears on people. You talk about dulling your sword, dulling your blade, that does it over time if you don't take that time. But we seem to sometimes be under attack in what we do, whether it's coming from outside the corporation, other entities, or some in our community. And I don't experience that in Daleville, really, with our community. They're extremely supportive, but I've seen it happen to where a community is at odds over things going on in the school, and then they pick sides, and it never works well for the teachers, the staff, but ultimately the students. And it sometimes is a thankless job. You don't get a lot of praise as a teacher or an administrator, but you sure hear a lot when somebody doesn't like something that you've done. And anytime you're making decisions, there's going to be people that don't like what you decide.
Absolutely. I've pondered, Mr. Roach, over time. Certainly, we all need data to help us with our decision making. But I've pondered a bit, have we went too far with the use of data? And that is that data being utilized or looked at in an appropriate way, so we're not creating such a grind. And look, everything we do, right, in life, as John Maxwell says, life is an uphill journey. Leadership is an uphill journey all the way. Don't ever think you're going downhill or you're coasting, because that's not the case. But so that means we've got to roll up our shirt sleeve and put the elbow grease in. No magic recipe, but that's a natural grind. It's what I hear you saying, I think, is that grind that maybe goes beyond that point to where effectiveness is impacted. Because I think I've never met an educator. And by the way, I think you would agree. I see quality and highly effective administrators leaving much earlier than what they once did from education as well, for the very same reason. But it's that grind beyond reasonableness at times, from that reflective point of the one closest to the child, the one closest to that classroom, the one closest to that administrator, that really gets in the way.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think the unnecessary grind is exponentially more damaging than your own self-imposed grind,
Yeah.
or the natural grind. There's no question about that.
Is there a way, have you found a way to where state mandates can be met, yet a bit of autonomy can be handled? And where I'm going is, I think sometimes, just in my experience, and I kind of correlate this, and you were an athlete, an athletic director, coaches never worked in practice the week leading up to a game looking at the final score. They looked at the strategy and execution, and the final score took care of itself in that regard. Sometimes with state mandates, standardized assessments, it's almost as if the final numbers are up, and that's what we're working towards, which I have found, if that's the way it's approached, you're never going to attain anything.
I would agree completely. And we understand and recognize the state mandates. You talk about state testing, and my staff would probably repeat it verbatim if you asked them, but state testing is important. It is a measure that we're judged on and we're graded on, but it's not the only thing. And that's what I've said continually. We want to do well, and we want to prepare our kids. We want to meet the standard, and that's kind of been our approach. If our students are proficient in the standards, the state testing will take care of itself for the most part. There's some teaching them not the answers to the questions, but showing them the types of questions so we actually can assess their knowledge. We use some digital tools to have questions that are drag and drop or things they might normally not see in a classroom. We give importance to the testing, but there's more to that than to what we offer our students, for sure. There's no question.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, moving into the next category, and that's the category of love. And sometimes I feel like for whatever reason, there's a hesitancy to simply admit that we love one another, whether it's with our peers, our team members, teachers, students, in a focus through an agape way. And I bring the term from Joel Manby, the former CEO of SeaWorld, and his book, Love Works, which is a great book to read for any leader in that aspect. It really helped me understand some aspects in those areas. But it seems like the word love has almost become a four-letter negative term. Yet you can't have a family without love, whether it's in your school, corporation, or at home. And when I use the term love, it's focused on faith, family, relationships. You mentioned the importance of relationships and connecting in that piece, and family aspects. Talk a bit about aspects that you found have worked for you when it comes to developing those positive, effective, professional relationships, especially with all the unnecessary grind at times that may get in the way for those you're working to develop relationships with.
I think we mentioned early on in the first episode about servant leadership and service to our staff. I think, and I've told people many, many times, the most important thing I can give you is my time. That is the most valuable thing to me. So just going up and being present, but also as a superintendent even, and I've done this all the way through my career, just helping with jobs that they look at you and think, that's not what that's not your job to do that. That's pretty menial work for me where I don't have to think. That's actually something that's a break for me. When I was an assistant principal, I always remember as an athletic director, after a basketball game, have all these chairs out there that you have to put away and stuff. One of the things I would do as an assistant principal, and even as a principal, I would get my crew and go grab about 6 kids and say, hey, let's go get these chairs put away. So at least the athletic director didn't have to worry about that. But just doing things that show that you care. And I'll tell people that I appreciate them. And almost every email, and you may see it when I send you an email, almost every email ends with thanks. To me, it's thank you for your job you do, but thank you for the opportunity to be here with you on your team. And I just want to make sure they understand the sincerity of that. One of the examples from my superintendent, Chad Yenser at Blackford, I told him that he is horrific at showing gratitude, and he means it, and it's obvious he means it. And that's what I don't ever want to give them just a, hey, thanks. And they're like, well, he doesn't really mean that. I want them to know that it's sincere. But I think, and you said love is like a four-letter bad word. Unfortunately, in our society today, that's kind of true for a teacher to especially to a student. And you always have to say you have to have appropriate positive relationships and things like that. But I think you can show that love in your actions. And that's far more powerful than any words I can say to them. But just we talk about the Daleville family, and I'll tell staff members here when they have a family issue, you take care of that. That's what's most important. We'll figure things out on our end. We'll figure it out when you get back, but go take care of what you need to take care of. Because family is most important. And I truly mean when I say it's a Bronco family, when I send out an email, even to cancel school or a 2-hour delay or my message on the phone when I send that out, it's good morning, Bronco family. And that's what I want. I think that's what we have here, and I want to continue that.
Good for you. I really appreciate your response there. And I think your emails or communication simply saying thanks. We talked in the first episode about serving and bringing value to self and ensuring we don't forget that. And some people may hear that and say, well, that's selfish. But if you think about it, it's really selfless from the standpoint of it's more selfish if we're serving others and we're not growing ourselves, because I can go back to times in my career and life to where I wasn't growing and taking the time to read or just to talk to others, to mentors and learn or to reflect back. Then that means I minimized what I brought to my team, to what I brought to the people that I was in charge of helping them with their growth and development. And as I reflect back, Mr. Roach, one thing jumps out at me, like we're doing here, you and I. Sometimes we think to add value means we've got to take 5 hours to drive someplace to attend a seminar. That addition of value is right in front of us with every conversation we have. And just maybe more time, I found for myself, taking more time to think, okay, I'm entering a conversation with Mr. Greg Roach. What might I get out of that? Or Kevin, pay attention. There's some value there for you. And in similar fashion, I, from time to time, reach out to people who God has blessed me with in my life, maybe in my past that I don't see as often, or maybe current, and simply tell them, I appreciate you. I appreciate all you've done for me. I appreciate all you do on behalf of our children. And I don't say this from an egotistical piece. There's really no planned time, but I can't tell you, Mr. Roach, and I'm sure you experienced this, the number of times I get back from them, your timing is impeccable. Educators will respond to me and say, whoa, I needed that today. It was one of those days where that unnecessary grind had taken over my attitude and focus. So just something so small can bring value to ourselves or bring value to others.
Absolutely. And I agree. Multiple times during my career, I've gotten that. You don't know how much I needed that today or this week or whatever. And yeah, even if it's a 30-second email that you type out, and it can be powerful. And it's so easy. It's so easy to do that, but it's also so easy just not to take the time to do it. And sometimes, like you said, we're not even aware, but just the thought of, I'm going to send out a positive message to somebody today. God's probably involved in that in some way, whether the person needs it or you need it. Maybe they reply back and they give you an uplifting message back, but not trying to just control everything and think you don't have time to do the little things like that is huge.
They absolutely are. Well, getting into the last L from the concept of still and being able to slow down and eliminate the busyness that kind of gets in our way. And busyness can bring some of that unnecessary grind. But when we think in that concept, Mr. Roach, when you look at leading and using your strengths and being able to live in your strength zone, live beyond your strength zone, what have you found that's been effective for you, or how have you been able to be successful more often than not? Because I'm sure you would agree that at times we as leaders find ourselves asking, now, why am I not playing to my strengths? I know that's happened to me a number of times, but what have you found really works for Greg Roach?
One of the things when I read through that initially, I wanted to comment on, you talk about slowing down. I can think of a handful of administrators during my time that I've told them, when things speed up, you have to make yourself slow down. And that's something I've always been able to do. My staff would tell you, particularly when I was at Mount Vernon for the 22 years, that's something they always noticed. When chaos was going, I slowed down and I stayed calm. And I told them, well, I'm that duck that's paddling like crazy underneath the water. My insides may be churning, but I'm going to give that appearance of calm. And that's good for your staff. But as far as playing to your strength, I completely agree. You can get wrapped into things and just go away from the things that give you strength or that give you the ability to finish up what you need to do. I think I've been able to learn and grow throughout my career. I think I have a pretty good self-awareness of who I am, which is a huge advantage, because some people, I think, they don't know their strength. They don't think they have any strengths or many strengths. And I think that's huge. I think we're selling ourselves short when we do that. But I take the things, and I say self-awareness more what people have told me over the years. This is what you do well. This is something I wish I had that you do, or something like that. But I just draw back into those. And it's just like you said, if we have a problem in front of us, what's personally my best way to work through that problem? Not maybe what's the easiest for somebody else or the quickest. What's my best way to work through this problem so we can get resolution and have success on the other end of it?
Thank you, Mr. Roach. I appreciate that response. I couldn't agree more. Since a man that is very much at peace and is comfortable with his leadership skill, thus I'm not surprised of your ability to bring chaos to a halt, so to speak, with that comfort level, as much as one can have comfort when there's a significant adversity piece. I do believe sometimes, just from human nature, we can create chaos and adversity out of something that should never reach that point in its truest definition. So my next question, would like for you to share your experiences, is what's one big takeaway that you would like to share to anyone who's joining us, listening, who may reference the recording in the future, about your journey to the leader you are today?
Well, I've been an administrator for this is my 29th year, I think. So I've got a lot of experience. And you learn over time, you mature, and you learn from every experience. I guess I would say take away from it two things. Learn from every experience, whether it's good or bad. I'll probably go 3 or 4 things, I guess. But if something's not going right, there's a problem, admit the problem, diagnose the problem, and fix the problem. That's the only thing you can do. Don't try to hide it. Don't try to hide from it. but just figure out a way to correct it. Or if it's something going on in your school that you can't correct, then it shouldn't be there. Whether it's a program or whatever, either fix it or get rid of it. But everybody you work with, particularly those that are your administrators that are in charge of you, try to take things away from them that you like and you can implement in your toolbox. That's huge. I mean, I'm probably a combination of several different people have developed my leadership style. And it's still evolving as I deal with other superintendents and have those times where we interact and talk and find out how they do things. I'll make adjustments. That's, to me, the words lifelong learner are thrown around a lot, but that's what's big for me. I was fortunate at Mount Vernon. I stayed there for 22 years as an athletic director, and then as an athletic director and the summer school director, which I didn't mention, but I did all the summer school. Then I was an assistant principal, and then I was a principal. They let me be on the negotiating team. They let me come over to the administration office. I had an interest in finance, so they let me just see what's going on there. I had the ability throughout my career, even 22 years at Mount Vernon, of changing jobs several times or doing different things. And it wasn't just a change to do something different. It was a change to learn something different. And that's what I strive for. And I'm still learning as a second-year superintendent, learning a ton. And I love that. And there's never a time that I won't keep learning and getting better. And that's what I like to push to my staff. We want to be better today than we were yesterday. And if we keep doing that, then we're going to do some really great things for our students.
I have no doubt about that. They've got a great leader. You're an impressive gentleman, sir. I just love your background, and I love the way you couch your leadership toolbox in that piece. And I also appreciate your focus on your growth journey's not done, that there's more coming there. And with that in mind, Mr. Roach, if there's someone who views this episode or these two episodes and says, wow, I'm on a similar path as Greg Roach, I'd like to talk about some lessons learned or gain some more knowledge, how might they reach out to you?
Email is the best way to reach me. I'm an email king, getting right back. It's on the Daleville website, but it's groach, Groach, at daleville.k12.in.us. That's the best way to reach me. Interesting story. When I came to Daleville, they didn't set my voicemail up, and we didn't find that out for a week or so. And nobody was even getting to it because it was literally, I have no voicemail. And they asked me if they wanted me to fix it, or if I wanted them to fix it. And I said, you know what? No. Tell them to email me, or they can leave a message with the secretary, and I'll get right back to them. And I do. I'm pretty good about that.
I like that.
That was something throughout my career, and this is, I guess, another piece of advice for people. I probably quick, prompt communication back was probably a deficiency of mine. It's something I needed to work on. Just communication in general was not always the best as a very young administrator. Just letting things sit for a little bit and then getting swamped and not getting to it. Now I would say those are strengths of mine. So you can take a weakness and make it a strength. Data, reading data, student data from test scores and things like that, not something I had a lot of experience on when I became a principal. Now I think it's a strength of mine. So you can always take that challenge. I guess that's the old competitor athlete in me. Take a challenge of something where you feel like it's a weakness or something that needs to be improved and make it a strength. And that's, to me, that's a challenge, and I enjoy that. So that's just the competitor in me.
Well, yeah, the athletes and coaches typically don't lose the competitive aspect in those windows. And Mr. Roach, I just appreciate so much you and your peers in education and in leadership, what you all do and how you model it, how you're doing in Daleville is just outstanding. The school community, the teachers, staff, and students are so blessed to have you. And I honestly believe there needs to be more of just letting people know, because I can tell you as a grandparent now, I do not want teachers in front of my grandchildren who don't love them and who aren't there for the right reason. And I want you to know, brother, I love you. I appreciate you, and I'm here for you. And I just appreciate so much these words of wisdom. There has been much value I have gained, and I'm sure everyone out there watching has gained. So thank you so much for this time. And I'm here for you. I'll come alongside if you ever need anything at Daleville.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I enjoyed it. And hopefully if somebody listening can take one good thing out of it, then we've done some good today.
Absolutely. And I think you've done a lot of great in that piece. And for those of you joining this episode and the previous episode with Mr. Greg Roach, wow, your leadership has been synergized. And I hope you do find those nuggets. And if you need a moment to reflect, just try still. Become self-aware. Identify where you can serve, transform, inspire, influence, love, and lead. And take the next step forward in transforming your leadership. in your life. I thank you. Mr. Roach thanks you. We're here for you. If you have any questions, would like to comment on the episode, feel free to reach out anytime. Have a wonderful day.